Good evening, Conversation 3. This is our last video lecture of the semester before we have our exam next Friday. Everything is posted. This is the last thing that needs to be linked to the website, so there's the exam schedule, there's the presentation guidelines, there's the exam guidelines, there's a topic list. Everything's there, lecture summaries and everything. Thank goodness, everything's done. So you're the last group for the conversation classes for me to talk to you about the exam. So first of all, Conversation 3, as I said, usually the students are a little bit more mature. You're not freshmen for the most part. So the term has gone fairly smoothly. Some students have chosen not to follow the instructions or listen carefully, but that's normal. For the most part, this class is very low maintenance. So as I said to you before, in some previous semesters, I've almost forgot about my Conversation 3 class, especially if it's Friday, that it just suddenly pops up and like, oh yeah, I have to prepare for that class because I just do the lectures and the students do the homework, and there's not that many questions, and it's just a very smooth process compared to freshmen are freshmen. I was a freshman too, I know. They're just adjusting, but you're easier to manage. So what I'm going to do right now is just very briefly, quickly go over the topics that we had. There are 11, and I will ask you 3. As I explained before, the first topic is the same for every class, including Conversation 1 and Conversation 2. You should introduce yourself, which includes a basic introduction plus a little bit about your interests, your background, your family, or your personality. Okay? Just to fill out the 90 seconds or so that you're supposed to, in terms of detail, for me to listen to. Your English ability, I would like you to have a little bit longer introduction than just saying, hello, my name is Jeremy and I'm from Canada, and that's it. I want a little bit more depth to your introduction. So please do that. Don't forget, we did that the very first week of class. The other 10 topics are unique to Conversation 3, and they sort of parallel the topics, the chapters in the book. They are sometimes slightly different, so I'll remind you of that as I go through, but sometimes they're very similar. And of course, the information in the textbook, especially in terms of the grammar examples and the reading samples or dialogue or interview samples that are in the textbook are very useful, because really they're kind of templates for you to create your own versions. They're kind of patterns for you to follow. You're not supposed to copy them, of course, but you're supposed to look at them and say, I could talk about something else, but I could write about it using the same structure. And I can speak like that too. This is an ESL textbook, so that's what they're trying to do for you. So, getting into the topics, we do have this exam next Friday, so you have a week to prepare. I recommend practicing more than memorizing or studying per se. Look at the examples and look at the grammar points in the vocabulary, and listen. Perhaps look at your notes from previous video lectures, and then rehearse. Look at your script if you have one, especially for the 7 assignments that you submitted. Look at them, and then turn the page over, or just refresh yourself, and then attempt to do it without reading, without memorizing, and attempt to follow the same sort of organization and purpose that you did when you were writing. And you will do well if you do that. That's how you prepare properly. So, first topic was what makes you happy. So you can choose, of course, anything you want. It doesn't matter if it makes you temporarily happy or it makes you happy in the long term. I love to say to my composition students, writing doesn't make you happy, but finishing your writing makes you happy, right? Those of you who are also taking my composition class or somebody else's, it's a very painful process, but the result is happiness. No pain, no gain. So you can take that approach if you want. You can talk about really quick, short-term satisfaction and something that makes you happy in the sort of immediately in the near future, or you can talk about something that takes a lot of work and in some ways it's even the feeling of happiness endures more and it's more satisfying because the reward is greater after you wait for it. A great example of that also is running a marathon. I've run 2 marathons in my life, and I can tell you those are 2 of the most excruciating sets of 4+ hours I've had in my life. But I can't describe how I think it was more relief, but I would call it happiness. Essentially, is that just anything would make me happy except for running. After those races, after I ran 42.195 kilometers and I sat down, I was very happy to sit down. And when somebody gave me a drink of water, I was very happy to drink water. It's all relative. So take your own perspective, choose something that you think makes you happy, and tell me why. And that's how that answer should be constructed. I use the expression "hit the pavement" because one of my friends loves that expression, and whenever he's looking for jobs or when one of his friends, family members, or colleagues, coworkers is looking for a job, he says, "You got to hit the pavement. You got to look hard. You got to search for a job, and if the job's not going to come to you, you got to go get it." And that's what "hit the pavement" means. He also loves to say, instead of saying "getting fired," he loves to say, "he got canned," like you got thrown in the garbage can. It's a very colorful language, English, sometimes, and Canadian English has its expressions too. So getting canned, if you hear somebody say "I got canned," it might mean that the person lost their job, so you're supposed to buy them a drink or something and make them feel better. So getting a job, hitting the pavement, what I wanted you to do was talk about your future, right? Because this was a really good topic for senior level students because you are going to be searching for jobs. So you just have to use the future tense and then sort of walk me through what you think your prospects are and what your plan is once you graduate. Because you should start thinking about that anyway. So it serves 2 purposes: getting a good grade on the interview, and for your personal benefit. Start thinking about what kind of job you're going to get. I was very stupid when I was a senior, and I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, I was done school, and I had nothing ready to go. Some of my friends did the Korean sort of approach where they were already looking for a job and they hadn't graduated yet. And in retrospect, that's probably what I should have done too. The next topic number 4, is electronic devices. The chapter is called Plugged In. You're allowed to talk about any electronic device, describe it, and then tell me what the useful function is that you really find beneficial. You're not allowed to talk about smartphones, just because everybody would talk about smartphones. If I allowed that, everybody would talk about their smartphone, because I think that's the natural choice, right? That's the device we rely on the most. That's electronic. So I'm sorry, but no smartphones are allowed. Any other thing, I don't care what kind of electronic thing it is, it should be interesting, useful, and you need to describe it, and then you need to say why you like the functions of it and why you think that's a good choice. That's why you like it. Okay, body language is the next one. Specifically, I talked about poker faces and signaling things by appearance on your face, but it doesn't matter. It can be handshakes or waving hands. It can be shoulders down or up. It can be turning your body away. It can be signals of any type of body language, even if it involves not so much movement, but just hiding certain parts of your face, like disguising parts of your face, covering your eyes, or different cultures have different ways of communicating, and for example, eye contact is something that most people in Canada or America consider eye contact to be necessary to establish some sort of connection with somebody. But if you make eye contact in certain cultures, that means you're being disrespectful to somebody. So, I walk around all the time and I intentionally, I intentionally throw my headset at people. No, I intentionally make eye contact with people, even if they're strangers, and they don't look back at me. And I always think that's weird, but it's more likely that if I encounter a Canadian or American, they make eye contact. And when we make eye contact, you give them a nod or something, or like just acknowledge them or something. That's sort of just a cultural thing. So you can choose any sort of body language. It can be related to some sort of sport or business scenario, or respect or traditional behavior, bowing, and you can describe it in detail for me and how it should be done properly, and how in that culture it's accepted as meaning a certain thing. Number 6, describe a movie, but don't spoil it. Okay? I just decided tonight, after I'm done this, I'm pretty tired, but I'm probably going to watch a little bit of Netflix before I fall asleep. So I was a big Lego fan when I was a kid, and you might think this is childish, but there's been several Lego movies recently, and I'm going to rewatch the Lego movie. And it just so happens that right at the beginning of the Lego movie, and this is the thing, you don't want to spoil the movie. I'm warning you, don't spoil it. Because if I haven't seen the movie and you tell me it's great and then you ruin it for me, I'm going to be upset. And so would anybody else. The Lego movie is great because the Lego movie is totally made of Lego. It's animated Lego. It's not cartoon. It's not drawing. Everything that happens is made out of Lego bricks. You can talk about that kind of stuff and you can be like, well, that's cool. Maybe I want to watch that. That doesn't ruin the movie. That's just an aspect of the movie that's different. Now, right at the beginning of the movie, there might be things that happen that also will not ruin the story for somebody. So, the main character in the Lego movie is Emmett, okay? And of course, like normal, typical sort of stories, there's a good guy, bad guy dynamic. And the hero is this typical sort of normal guy who has to go up against this like super powerful bad guy. The main character is called Emmett, and he's just a normal guy. Especially, he's more normal than anyone. He's just not important or significant in any way, and that's what makes him special. Is that he's the most normal person ever. So this is what he does when he wakes up. He wakes up and he says, "Good morning, world. Good morning, floor. Good morning, ceiling. Good morning, plant. Good morning, bed. Good morning, sofa." And then he goes to his instruction manual, because everything he does according to instruction manuals, because that's what you do when you build Lego. You follow instructions. You see? See the meta working there? And he opens the instruction manual that's supposed to be the instruction manual for teaching you how to be happy. Remember chapter 1, topic number 2? How can you be happy? Well, the manual tells you. And what he reads says, the manual starts out by saying, how to fit in and have everybody like you and always be happy. And it makes me laugh every time. Not just because that's what most people want, but I think especially Koreans like to fit in and everybody to like them and to always be happy. Like, it's a very important thing to Korean people to be normal. Maybe it's changing. Cultures change all the time, but it's something like Koreans are very trendy and everything. And like, does that make you happy to know that everybody likes you. Yes, it made me happy too. Some people, though, eventually, as they get older, they realize that they reject normality and they want to be different. So anyway, the Lego Movie is a great movie. See, all these ideas I'm telling you about the movie have not ruined the movie for you, because this is the basic idea of the movie. It's not what happens in the movie. So don't tell me what happens in the movie. Tell me about the concept, the main idea, the characters, the background, the director, right? The animation, the quality. Just don't tell me what happens. And you'll do a good job of that question. The good, the bad, and the ugly was the 7th topic, which you just have to choose. A really good situation or bad situation. It might be a day or an event, good or bad, terrible. The graphic I made for that, I stopped making graphics after a while because I was so far behind doing video lectures and catching up that I couldn't even do the thumbnails for the YouTube, channel. But I think that was the last one I did. I had there was like a car crashing into a house. Somehow it had jumped off a hill and like landed into a building. Some people have really bad days, or you have really good days. So just choose one of them and describe, a really good situation or a really bad situation, a sort of sequence of things that were good or bad in your life, and describe them in detail, and that's all you have to do. Spending and saving was a great, I think, topic for you again as you graduate. Hopefully you have acquired some financial skills as you've managed your money, whether it's coming from your parents or your part-time job or your scholarships. You're realizing that money's coming in and money's going out. So the lecture was called Money is a Liquid. And it was all about budgeting and managing money. So you can talk about an experience about where I told you some stories about overspending or saving money, or a lesson that you learned about money, or your experience saving money for a certain purpose. It doesn't matter, as long as you sort of demonstrate to me that you're learning how to manage your money. That's what that question is related to. So you need to tell me something about how you manage money. It could be not managing well, and that's what you learned, or it could be managing well and showing that you know how to do it. Topic number 9 is describing a process. That's sort of what Emmett is talking about. Something that has a step-by-step instructions. You have to tell me how to do something. Build something, make something, cook something, put something together, take something apart, anything that has a sequence of things that you need to do in a certain order. That's topic number 9. Topic number 10 is called What's the Matter? And it is about dealing with problems. So you need to have strategies for managing problems. Things happen, unexpected things, bad things happen all the time. There's different ways of dealing with them. You can confront the problem. You can ignore the problem. You can ask for advice. You can ask for help. You can fight against a problem. You can learn from the problem. There's all kinds of things that you can talk about. But basically, the ability to handle things that are negative in your life, which happen all the time because it's normal. It happens to everyone. These are called coping skills, and coping means being able to handle negative things: emotional, mental, physical, financial, and so on. Social. These things constantly happen, and if you have the ability to handle them, then you have good coping skills. And so you have to give me an example of your ability to cope with adversity, with a situation that's not easy to deal with. Finally, we did perhaps the funnest, in my opinion, chapter in the book, chapter 10, was about imaginary creatures. You submitted those. There were some really great examples. I think maybe over the course of the semester that some students have really got the hang of how to put together, a good answer because there was some humor involved with them. There's some really strange creatures and some tone, which is great. Whether it's an interview or it's a conversation, you got to behave like a person. Don't behave like a robot. So like if you think this is, one student was just describing this creature, and it was just like, this is the most ridiculous creature I've ever heard of. So this is why I'm going to talk about it. I mean, me too. Like when you come across something that's part goat, part snake, part lion, and part eagle, and you're like, it's a chimera or something, and you're just like, what is the point of this thing? And why it's a very strange animal, and why did human beings, anybody, care or believe about these things? So some of the examples, and there's all kinds of weird ideas about aliens and stuff. Some people were very more serious and saying like, this creature is not real, but it has a very important role. It symbolizes something for this culture, or that they were talking about aliens and saying like, honestly, we don't know what aliens look like. They could look like anything. They could look like us, or they could look like octopus or something like that. But they could be real. So we need to be more serious about the topic in that case. There's all kinds of people were using their imagination and approaching the topic in a very, I think, engaging way, a very interesting way, and adding some humor or some analysis. I think that makes an answer more compelling, more impressive in an interview or in a conversation. That just makes it makes a more interesting answer when you've got that certain perspective on the topic. So I think you're going to do well in the exam, and you can direct any further questions you have to my email. But I trust that most of the information, if not all of it, is available for you, and all you have to do is practice and come at the proper time, because the schedule is posted, to my office in the Inmunde, in the College of Humanities, and I will get to briefly meet you and ask you some questions, and then your course will be complete, and you will be free to enjoy your summer vacation. So thank you so much for listening to these lectures and being understanding sometimes when things weren't going very smoothly or there were some delays with certain things. I really appreciate it. I did my best to try and deliver a good educational experience for you. Next semester, we will have more equipment and we'll have more ways of interacting if this coronavirus situation has not been resolved. Then there will be Zoom meetings, and there'll be, or other platforms. There's all sorts of different technology being developed specifically for education. So there will be a chance for you to interact with me, with you logging into sort of a virtual classroom. We will definitely do that next semester if there's so don't be concerned that it's just going to be YouTube videos and one-way communication, because we will definitely modify the conversation classes to include a virtual classroom where you have a chance to speak more to the professor and to each other. It's all being worked on. None of this was expected, of course, in March, so we had to adapt quickly. But over the summer, we will be preparing to make the classes, especially for conversation, more interactive, so that you can get a better experience. But thank you for understanding how things went this semester, and for doing your homework and listening carefully to the video lectures. This is it. That's the end of the semester for us. So I will see you next Friday. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.